Do not buy a lithium battery in 2025 until you finish this video. We're going to talk to you 31 different lithium iron phosphate batteries in the 100 amp hour range. And at the end, we're going to give you 3 different recommendations for a mini battery, a Group 24, and a Group 31. Now you may be wondering, why would you want a different size battery? So a mini battery may work out for you in a kayak, or you're squeezing in another battery for your electronics in an already cramped space. That's where a mini battery comes in. I would really consider starting at a Group 24 for like a trolling motor application. So this is a Group 24. There is a standard to a 24 and a 31. There's no standard for a mini. This is a mini, this is a mini, this is a mini. They're all 3 different sizes. So what you want to pay attention to is, how do you hold the battery down in your boat? And so what I would recommend is a 24 or 31 in general, unless you really need a small battery and you go to a mini. Now, all of this information we're going to talk through is public. I found it online, going through their websites, going through Amazon, whatever, to find the specs that they share with the general public. There's no secret knowledge here. These are not sponsored either. They've sent me their batteries. I've done some content for them. I don't owe anybody anything. This is just my pure recommendation based off the information, my own personal experience. Obviously, I mess with these a lot. I've got some good firsthand knowledge on these. And the pricing is subject to change, right? So I'm looking at it online today. It could change on sale for Valentine's Day and the price goes down. So do that as you will. The prices will fluctuate over time. And let's go ahead and get started. Very first question I always get asked, or I see asked online, is which one will last longer? This is a 100 amp hour 12 volt battery. This is a 100 amp hour 12 volt battery. Actually, they all are. They all are. You can see there's a big difference in size. So there's a 31, a 24, and a mini. They will all last the same amount of time. There's nothing here that says this battery will not last as long as this big battery. They're really the same chemistry and the same number of cells. Maybe this one has pouch cells. Never mind. They're both 100. They're all 100 amp hour batteries. And so when you're comparing the runtime, this one will not necessarily run longer than this one or this one. So just to be clear, they're all the same energy storage. There may be some tolerances between all these, right? This one may be 105. This one may be 108, 103. They vary depending on the balance of the cells in the pack. But in general, they're all going to last the exact same amount of time for any given application at 12 volts. So we have them all sorted out by price. The cheapest is on the left side of your screen. The more expensive is on the right side of your screen. Now, I know I said I was shooting for under $300. This is the Temp one all the way on the right. And the reason why this one's still included, because it's a special breed of cat. So this one has Bluetooth on it. It's a Group 24. It has actually an LCD screen on the top of it, and it's self-heated. So if you need a battery that's self-heated with all the bells and whistles, you may be interested in that, so I wanted to include it. And now let's go ahead and look at it from the different size of batteries. So we got Group 24s here. And as you can see, the Texella Group 24, I don't have that one, but this is a mini, is kind of bringing up that lower end all the way up to the Temp. Really that median price range across the board for like a well-known brand is going to run you about $200. So that's the price point that we're talking about on a Group 24. Group 31s are generally a little bit cheaper. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe they're just easier to get the cases for, but inside this case is actually foam to take up extra space for the cells. So there's really not a whole lot of difference here. I would say the other big difference would be this has like integrated handles. Most Group 24s have built-in handles, which are really nice. As a mini versus the strap, it just depends on your preference, but keep that in mind. So here's the Group 31s. Again, Texella bringing up the bottom end. It's a new brand. I think they just kind of popped up. I've messed with these apparently. I've messed with this one. I think it's 108 amp hours out of this thing. So it's really cranking it out there. They're kind of buying the market a little bit. I think they're just eking in there a little bit cheaper than the next guy. We'll see how that shapes up over time, but they are a pretty reasonable option. As you can see across the middle of the board, like a Redodo Group 31 is going to be running, what is that, with Bluetooth, about $210, something like that. And then all the way up to the Power Queen. I did include some of these that have heaters in them in case you live in that kind of climate, but you can see the wide range of pricing for the Group 31s. So finishing that up with the mini batteries, you can see again, Texella with the minis, kind of all right there at the same price point. We've got a Power Queen mini here, Dr. Prepare mini. That's all the minis I think I have at the moment. So you can see the range of pricing for the mini batteries. And then, like I mentioned, I just included a couple heated batteries. So we have the Temp with the built-in heater. There is a Power Queen with the built-in heater. And that's all I've included. There's a few more, like you can get this 24 lead time with a heater. I've not included that because You don't really need it in most marine applications. You know, maybe for like an RV, maybe a little bit better, but in general, you can get your battery warmed up if you're going to be on the water fishing, probably just fine without heat. And then the last thing we want to talk through is LTCP, low temperature charge protection. I think that's kind of coined on some of these. You may see it on some of the labels. So what that is you do not want to charge a lithium battery when the cells are frozen. It takes a long time to freeze cells because of their thermal mass, but you can damage them permanently by what's called lithium plating. And lithium plating is really just, it degrades the cell of the battery and it's unable to push those ions through there. Anyway, you will lose capacity on your battery. So what you want is the low temperature charge protection. And what that does is the BMS will look at the cell temperature. If it's cold or frozen, it will not accept a charge until the battery warms up. So it's kind of an idiot-proof way to protect itself, which is just fine. You can plug in your charger and you let it figure it out if it wants to be charged or not. Now, the far majority of these now have low temp charge protection. 2-3 years ago, that was definitely not the case. That was like a rare thing. Now it's pretty much standard. You can see there's a couple out there. The Time USBs don't, and the Redodo Mini don't, but pretty much anything else you get will be just fine there. Really don't need it if you live in Florida, right? Maybe it doesn't matter. If you live up north, even in Texas, it may come into play here a little bit. So moving on, let's talk about weight. Weight's not going to vary a whole lot between these. The biggest difference is going to be the overall package of the battery, like a 31 to a Mini, and some of these have different cells. So there are rectangular prismatic cells, which are like a brick, and those are quite big, and they nest in these Group 24s pretty well. They have a little bit of extra space in the 31s, and they handle those high rate discharges and charges pretty well. Your pouch cells, which would be more like in this battery here, are a little bit different. I'm not sure that the Dr. Prepare has it. I haven't cut one open, but there are pouch cells in mini batteries as well. And those are kind of like what's in a cell phone. If you've seen those, they're almost like flexible, and they stack them up and they make the 12-volt battery out of them. And when you stack them up like that, it's harder for them to thermally expand and handle heat. So I typically don't like using them for high load applications. They will do it, they are rated for it. But if you're gonna really use like a trolling motor, I'd stick to a Group 24, get the big cells in there and use that. And so the lightest one out of the bunch is gonna be the Texcella Mini. This thing is itty bitty. This is the smallest by volume, just by a hair over the Dr. Prepare. And it is a very lightweight battery for sure. And then obviously a strong average there, 22 and a half pounds. Sometimes their advertised specs are a little bit off, so don't get too serious if it says 22 or 23. I've weighed some that are a hair less than what their advertised weight is. All the way up to the Wise Group 31. I don't know what they're doing there with the 31 at 26 pounds. I'll have to go back and look at the video I did on that one and see what it weighed, but in general, these are all the same chemistry, so there's no energy density differences. It's really just in like how fancy the case is and stuff like that. Pretty much the same weight across the board. Again, we've got it by 24s. I'll pause for a second. Got it by 31s. And then we got it by minis. All right, moving right along. Let's keep it going. So now we have with Bluetooth. Bluetooth was a rare thing 2-3 years ago. Bluetooth is now getting there to be standard. Is it required for your lithium battery? No. Is it nice to have? Absolutely. The two batteries in this boat have Bluetooth, and I definitely prefer it. Now, the big difference here is going to be the apps. Some of the apps just suck. They're like bare bones, tell you the information. Some of them are a little bit more, have a little bit better user interface, a little bit easier to navigate and hook up and find your battery. I like the Power Queen app's pretty good. The Lithium app is pretty good. I've not used a Redodo. The Texcella one's pretty basic, but this little guy at the lowest price point has Bluetooth, which is a definite benefit. So again, not a must-have, definitely like to have it. I've noticed some people get a little bit too obsessed with it, so keep that in mind. There's some kind of ongoing issues with a variety of different brands, not just the budget ones, but even the top tiers with the SOC, the state of charge. They're pretty sensitive in how they count the current coming in and out of the battery pack. You can get some off-the-wall SOCs, and I've struggled with that on some of the batteries where it's like I go from 97% to 5. And it's really just a reading thing. It's just that sensor not working right. I've capacity tested that battery and pushed well over what it's supposed to be, so there's no issues there. It's a calibration thing. They're just really finicky. Hopefully that gets better, but just keep that in mind with Bluetooth. You get some information, but you got to kind of navigate through it a little bit. So if you run into that instance where your SoC is showing low, just reference the voltage. If it says it's at 6% SoC, but it's at 13.4 volts, you're good. It's fine. It's the app goofing off. It's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead. Here's the Group 24s with Bluetooth. Here's the Group 31s with Bluetooth. And here are the minis with Bluetooth. Now let's kind of get into the weeds here a little bit on warranties. Warranties don't sway around too much. You know, there's some outliers here with EcoWorthy. They have a 2-year warranty, or maybe it's a 3-year warranty. They've always kind of been on that low end. I don't know if that's good or bad. They're a little bit cheaper on the price point on some applications, but so the strong average is at 5 years. 10 years for Dr. Prepare and Wise. So this Dr. Prepare has a 10-year warranty on it, which is pretty good. Pretty well-known brands at this point, with like your Lead Time, your Power Queens, Timgots are at 5 years. So that's a strong average. And really, honestly, if something doesn't go wrong in like year 2 or 3, there's a good chance it's going to be just fine for the remainder of however long you need that battery. Also, some of the higher end company warranties are heavily prorated. So there'll be different tiers, like, oh, year 0 through 1, we'll replace it. Year 5 through 7, we'll give you, you know, a discount. And then year 7 through 11, it'll be a 25% off a new battery. So just keep that in mind whenever it comes to warranties. Let's go ahead and talk through my recommendations as I've gone through all these, you know, a couple, 2-3 years now. And let's take a look at the recommendations for each segment. Now, my personal experience varies between these brands. Like the Texella is a new one to me. I've got a lot of use with Lead Times, Redodos, Power Queens. Dr. Prepare is a little new to me. Watt Cycle, I've used a couple of them. So in general, I've got some pretty good experience with a variety of different brands, but not all of them. Like I mentioned earlier, Texella is a pretty new brand. So that's going to weigh into it a little bit. So the recommendations, we're going to start with the lowest cost Group 31, like this, size battery. That's going to go to the Texella. And Texella, like I said, is a new brand, so their brand awareness, I'm going to give it a yellow. It does have Bluetooth, but the app is not my favorite, but it has Bluetooth at a low price point. The weight is fine, the warranty's at 5 years. If you're really trying to get over to lithium, Bluetooth is a plus, and you want the lowest cost of these, look into the Texella brand for the 31s. Moving on to kind of that best value, right? Not quite want the cheapest, you're already talking pretty inexpensive batteries, but the best value. I'm a fan of the Lead Time trolling motor battery. This is a $200 one, 5-year warranty, 22 pounds, and it's gonna have Bluetooth, and the brand awareness I put as a green. Lead Time is definitely starting to be a staple in this price point of battery. You've probably seen Lead Time by now, or Power Queen. Moving on to the Group 24s, this size battery, and this one kind of hidden back here. So Group 24s, again, lowest cost is going to go to the Texella. They're buying the market, man. They're just a little bit cheaper than everybody else. They have Bluetooth, they got a 5-year warranty, $140 price point there, same app. And their Group 24 has an M8 terminal on it, which is a little bit bigger than this guy. So I really wouldn't be too concerned with it, depending on, you know, your price point. Just kind of factor in, it's a newer brand. I don't know what their service looks like. You know, all of these, there's not going to be a storefront for you to go meet someone and swap out your battery. It's all going to be via email and sending in batteries and all that good stuff. So moving on to the best value for Group 24s, to me, it's a toss-up between Lead Time and Group 24 and a Power Queen Group 24. This is actually their mini. They're both good brands to work with. Their app is good. Their warranty's the same. Their weight's the same. You know, this one, I'd flip a coin, you know, get the best deal between either one. I'll have links down below if you want to check those out or not. But the Lead Time and the Power Queen would probably get my pick on a Group 24 battery. So moving on to the minis, we've got the lowest cost again. You're sensing the trend here on Texella. They're just hitting it. This is the mini battery, $145. It is the smallest by volume out of all of them. So if you're looking for the absolute tiniest battery, just under 200 cubic inches out of this, it does have 6mm terminals, which are, I mean, they're tiny. They're 1/4-inch bolts essentially, M6s, which is fine. I asked them why they did that, and they said for space. Okay, they got the smallest battery, and that's the reason why they went with it. So good for that. I like that the top is flat, so if you're running any in series or something, you don't have to worry about wrench clearance. Whereas you can see there's a defined notch here on the Dr. Prepare Mini, where it's a little bit different when you're setting up multiple batteries. And speaking of the Dr. Prepare, that's going to be our pick for the best value Mini. So 402 cubic inches out of it, very, very small, and $200 price point for this. Does not have Bluetooth. If they could just figure that out, it would be definitely that much better. Now, what I was talking about before is there's no standard to a Mini, so let's talk about that for a second. This is a Mini, this is a Mini, and this is a Mini. You can see that they're just very different. Like their height's off, their width is off, they're all over the place. So make sure when you're comparing specs, especially on the Minis, that you're actually looking at the dimensions and make sure it works for you. This may be too tall and you need something shorter, so keep that in mind. And that's all I have for you today. I hope you found that valuable. If you did, like and subscribe to the channel. I will do my best to answer any questions you may have in the comment section down below. There are also links there if you want to go check those out. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you on the next one.